Yo, this is your first time here, welcome. Been here before, welcome back. I'm Steven and today we're going to be running through my opinion on the best controller for Rocket League. Now, I can already smell it in the comments, everybody's been raging. I can imagine that's just kind of how it's going to go down. But some people like to hear my opinions on stuff. I'm your average Joe. I don't follow esports too much. I know some of the pros in Rocket League. I'm not a pro by any stretch. I'm a diamond pushing champ, trying to push champ. You know, so you're kind of just maybe above average player based on the distribution, I guess. You could say that. And if you've been on my channel for a little while or you haven't been here before, you'll know that I'm addicted to controllers. I've tried a whole host of them. I've got a bunch of reviews of different controllers all over, and I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Rocket League. So I feel like I'm kind of well versed on this topic to be able to give an opinion on it. I'm really sorry if I offend you. You're probably right, I'm probably wrong with your opinion on what the best one is, but this is my take on it and some reasonings around why. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that's here or is part of the subscribers on the channel. 870 at last check. It's fucking A, man. Just about that 1,000 mark. So if you're here and you do enjoy my content, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Helps me loads. Try to reach 1,000 by the end of the year. Might make it. Getting there so far. Press a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. But I won't waste any more time. Let's get into it. So, let's be honest, Rocket League. Nobody plays keyboard and mouse, right? I mean, you've got some mad examples like Z9, Yukio, Fruity, a couple of examples of people who play keyboard and mouse, but they're mental, right? Playing with a controller is so much better. This game is designed to be played with a controller, no keyboard and mouse. If you can play with keyboard and mouse, congratulations, this is not the video for you. But for the rest of us normal people, you're probably looking for a controller to either step up your game in Rocket League or maybe get something a bit different looking. You just want to get another controller and Rocket League's one of the games you play, yada, yada, yada. So the majority of pro players will play with either the PS4 DualShock controller or the PS5 DualSense controller, depending on which one they like better. But there's also a whole rake of players that will play with different types of Xbox controllers, different types of Pro controllers, normal controllers, ones with extra buttons, one without, blah, 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 blah. So there's a ton of options. I have had a PS4 DualShock controller in the past. Wasn't really for me. Didn't really like the shape of it that much. I'm coming from Xbox. I've obviously moved to PC, but I'm still playing with controller. I didn't really like it too much, so I ended up getting rid of it and I've moved back to the Xbox controller because I had one when I moved to PC for the DualShock, but I was just used to the shape of the Xbox controllers. So maybe it's better, even though I say that now, my new favourite controller in general is the Razer Raiju, but not really for Rocket League, just for kind of things like COD and upcoming Far Cry, we'll be playing that Battlefield and so on. But specifically for this one, I don't really use the Raiju anymore for Rocket League. I've moved on to one other, which is my winner in this list, which I will tell you later on. One of the good things about the PS4 and PS5 controllers is the parallel sticks. So on these you'll see that they are in line with each other. So on the Xbox is typically they're like this, and on the Pro controllers or anything like that, scuffs or whatever, they're kind of just offset. It just kind of depends on what you're used to, in most cases what you grew up with. The standard controllers do the job, but I feel like it's nice to have a few extra features and a few extra things that can help you in your game, make things a bit easier, and just generally be a bit nicer than the normal. If you spend a ton of time playing this and you aren't really a casual gamer, you're more into competitive, you probably want something that's a little bit more upmarket than a normal controller. But if not, and it's just more casual, you need to take that into account. So what are the things that we need to think about when we're picking a controller? The first one is latency. That normally comes between wired, wireless, Bluetooth, whatever the option is. Now, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, and I've had this before in comments. However, you'll really struggle these days to find a massive difference between wired and wireless in this day and age with the current technology that exists. Prove me wrong on that, because I mean, I've seen people have done videos on it, but I've never noticed a real difference. The only reason why I like wired controllers is because they're not going to die. And if you're like me and you know that every game in Rocket League when you're trying to level up, super counts massively to your score and your MMR and what level you're going to be at. If your controller dies halfway through, one little movement, anything from sort of diamond 1, diamond 2 above, one little miss, and that's a goal, and that could be you on a losing streak and ranking all the way back down. So you don't want that to happen. So the controller dying is probably something that you really want to think about. But also, if like me in your head, you feel like the latency might be an issue, for me, when I'm playing with a wired controller, I just feel like there is a difference in latency. I know there isn't. I literally know that there isn't. However, just for me, it just feels like I'm a bit safer and a bit more competitive when I'm playing with a wired controller. Pros at RSAS and stuff do usually, from what I have seen, play with wired controllers, whether they're plugged in or hardwired controllers. So I'm just going to do that because I feel like it's the best thing to do. The next thing you want to think about is ergonomics. Is it comfortable? Is it heavy? What's the button placement like? So on and so forth. So really, this one's going to come down to preference. If you're going to be grinding for a huge amount of time, like you're going to have to if you want to keep leveling up in Rocket League, whether it's training, whether it's comp, tournaments, whatever, you're going to have to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in. And therefore you want the controller to be comfortable, you want it to be easy on your hands, easy to use, not get too sweaty and so on and whatever. So that's another thing that you need to think about. The next one is tactility. Did you know that was a word? I didn't know. How tactile are the buttons? Do they have short throw in the triggers? Is it short throw in the buttons to make sure that you get that competitive edge? Whereas if, I'll always make this, I know we're talking about Rocket League, but I always make this example in Call of Duty. If me and somebody are 10 meters away from each other and they have a normal controller, a standard Xbox controller, I have one that has trigger stops on it, or say for example, they have a crouch button, I have a crouch button, even the tiniest little millimeter, if the throw is shorter, can make a difference between you winning or losing. And it's the same with turns in Rocket League. If you can jump up to fast aerial before somebody else because your buttons are a tiny bit, now we're talking milliseconds, thousands of seconds. Just but if you are that tiny little bit faster, you can get to the ball quicker. I'm going to take every advantage I can get because in general, I'm shit. So yeah, tactility in the buttons. The price, now this one comes down to how serious you are about Rocket League and comes down to how much you're willing to spend on it. There's loads of things that play into the price, but you've got anything from the Scuff Instinct up at your 200 quid range down to anything like a Power Fusion at 30 quid, or even a lot of these knockoff controllers that are 15, 20 quid from Amazon. So it really just depends. Typically the more you spend the better, but there are some ones in the middle ground, like my favourite one that I'm going to go through at the end of the video. It just depends on how much you want to spend and what you're paying for. In theory, the more you spend, the more features you're getting packed into a controller, is what it is. And the last one, if you're a Rocket League player, maybe you're like me and you love skins, wheels, boosts, goal celebrations, and everything in between, the way that things look. And therefore, for me, that obviously translates outside of the game. So what a controller looks like to me is mega important. Might not be to you, but it is to me. So it's another thing you need to think about. So these options that I've listed here are in no particular order, but I'm just going to give like the group of ones that are probably worth thinking about. And if you're looking into this and moving to a controller for Rocket League, these are the options that you maybe want to scope out, have a think about, see what they've got, what they've not got, and whether you think they're worth purchasing. So the first one, of course, is like the pros, the PS5 and PS4 DualShock and DualSense controllers, in the opposite order. Like I said before, these are the ones that the pros use. Very good controller, nice and ergonomic in the hands. No real ridiculous features, just kind of bog standard. A lot of the pros use these because they moved on from playing PlayStation, jumping on to PC and playing with the DualShock controllers. They're good, they're fine, nothing wrong with them. They're super light, they are wireless, so I'm not really keen on that. You can plug them in and play them like a wired controller, but I prefer the hardwired version if there was one. And yeah, pretty bog standard. For me, nothing stands out, nothing is massively amazing about them, but if you want to just play specifically with what the majority of the pros play with, that's your way to go. I don't have one here to look at because I just don't use them anymore, so I got rid of it a little bit time ago. But yeah, that's your first option that you can look at. Price-wise, you can pick these up for a pretty decent price. I'll leave a link to all these controllers in the description below if you want to go and have a look. The next one is the Razer Wolverine Ultimate. Full review of that up here. Nice controller. A little bit too much going on for Rocket League though, kind of unnecessary stuff. It's quite chunky and, you know, I've had a whole bunch of problems with it. I do like it, but, you know, if you're thinking about back buttons for a controller, it's kind of nice to have them, but I feel like there's too many and it's a big learning curve. If you've already put in a decent amount of time, if you're in even gold, platinum, diamond, whatever you're in, you probably put in a decent amount of time on a normal controller without paddles, so making the transitions hard, it's kind of worth it. If I've used the Raiju before, it's got one paddle on each side, and that's kind of nicer, but the Ultimate has multiple buttons on the back. I don't know, it's personal preference, but too many buttons for me, and the price is pretty mental, and as you might have seen if you've looked at any of my other videos, didn't hold up well for me, but seems to have held up well for everybody else in the world, just no me. So yeah, price is mental. I will leave a link for it below. Your next option would be something like a standard Xbox controller. These ones are super good, probably what you were used to in the first place. If you could pick one up that looks nice, they're very ergonomic, as you know. They don't have any of the rubber grips on them, anything like that. They're super light. Only thing is they're wireless and you would have to plug them in to be constantly charging if you wanted to do that. They look nice in a setup. They're okay, not fantastic. The buttons aren't too tactile. They don't have any hair trigger stops, but it's a good budget option. There are better budget options, which I'll run to, and if you're going to buy one of these, you're probably better buying something just a little bit higher market, like my final option that I will pick for you and let you know. But yeah, standard Xbox controller. The next one is my little baby, the Razer Raiju Tournament Edition. If you could find these anywhere, banging for every other game that isn't a Rocket League. They're alright for Rocket League, quite like them. They're better than most of the ones that have extra buttons because they only have two paddles and they're super easy to use. I have tried using these for right, arrow left, and they're quite good if you can get used to it, but I'm just not willing to spend the time on the, what's it called? Learning curve for changing across to that. So, beautiful controller, worth a punt. Quite expensive, but not too shabby. And actually, these are closer to Xbox controllers because they have the non-parallel sticks like you see here, but it's a PS variant and it is what it is. I mean, they look fun, cool. I like these, and it is now my favourite controller ongoing, just not for Rocket League, but for everything else. So, Razer Raiju Tournament. or Ultimate, one of the two. Next, you've got all your knockoffs. Now, like, these are your PowerA Fusion. Go on Amazon, type in PC controller, and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of them. Just stay away from them. You know, the issues that come along with them and stuff. I know it sounds, if you don't have the money for this and you're just wanting to play Rocket League, you can do fucking amazing. I'm sure that the majority of you watching this are probably better than me anyway, and could play better than me with a normal cheap controller from Amazon. But I would recommend, if you can stretch a little bit more, get something a little bit better. These ones aren't great, and a lot of them are, well, they feel cheap and nasty because they are cheap and nasty. Know what I'm saying? So finally, the controller that I think you should personally buy if you are looking to play Rocket League on PC and be as competitive as possible while maintaining a decent price, a decent look, ergonomics, reliability, durability, tactility, all of the ilities, is the Razer Wolverine V2. I've done a separate video on this entire controller. I'll link it up, whatever fucking site it goes on, I've no idea. But there's a lot of things about this that I think are fantastic for Rocket League if you're planning to move from a normal controller to something slightly more upmarket. So the back buttons, like I said before, that's personal preference, but they don't exist on this, and they kind of just don't get in the way, and you're getting a bit of a better controller than the normal one. The size, this is really small and light, so it could sit for hours and hours and hours, and you will have no issues with it at all as far as ergonomics goes. So it's fantastic for grinding out hundreds of hours of RL and slapping bots, my guy. It is a hardwired connection. It does not come away from the controller, which means it's not going to die. You feel safer playing with this controller. I don't know, I just feel like it gives me a mental competitive edge that doesn't really exist being a hardwired controller. It's the one to go for. Just do it. It's a reasonable price for what you would call a pro controller. Granted, it has less of the features than the Wolverine Ultimate, but it kind of took away the ones that you don't really need. And I like that. If you're desperate for the back triggers, then fine, but I don't really need them. You still have 2 extra triggers, which you can use here, which is enough. If you want to have a couple of extra buttons, they're still there. It's just not got all the extra faff, and the price is pretty fucking fantastic. I think I got this for like 80 quid. I'll leave a link for it below, but it kind of bridges the gap between shitey standard controller and ridiculous pro priced controllers. It has short throw to the buttons as well, which includes the trigger stops. So you've got these little switches in the back where you've got a longer throw and a shorter throw, and for me I like having a shorter throw because I can make adjustments quicker, I can boost, reverse, whatever I'm doing quicker. Same with the buttons, they have a smaller throw than a normal Xbox controller, which means, like I mentioned before, you can make adjustments or movements quicker than the majority of people who aren't using one of these controllers. Last thing is, it looks nice. It's a piece of Razer gear. I love Razer gear. It looks amazing. It's always class. And they knocked it out the park with this. As I talk about in my other video that I mentioned before, go and have a look if this is the choice that you wish to go for. For me, this is the best controller that I think you can currently get. It's a step up from a standard controller for Rocket League to maybe up your game or get involved in it and try and be a little bit more competitive. So, there's a lot of ramblings for just what controller to use for Rocket League. But that's my opinions, what I think about the different types of controllers and what I think is worth using. So the Wolverine V2 goes to that. I'll leave a link for the Wolverine V2 below if you want to go and purchase that, or just have a look at it, or generally just, I don't know, click on it and buy something else on Amazon to get me an affiliate. If you want to go through my link, buy anything else on Amazon, I get a little cutback through the affiliate program, so, you know, everyone's a winner. But yeah, leave your comments below and be nice. I never said I was a pro on Rocket League or an expert or anything like that. These are just my opinions. But leave a comment on what you think, what your favourite controller to use and why, and let me know if there's any other things you'd like to see a video on, whether it's my Rocket League settings or some gameplay from Rocket League or any of that kind of stuff. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video and you still made it to this point, don't forget to click that sub button, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and yeah, I will see you in the next video.